Can you hear my voice okay, gentlemen and ladies? It's really hard for me to get the balance at this end. Your voice is fine, so what you're saying is I need to ramp up the backing just a little bit on the musics. Is that right? It's funny how things can be so different every time I start this damn thing. Better do that. You let me know if that becomes overbearing. Alright. Because I don't want it to be too loud while trying to deliver on all of the learnings. So, welcome to Thursday evening. I hope you have your tea. I have some black Assam again. Ah, cool. That's good to hear. We got the music sorted out. I hope you have no face rig. OJ, I have OJ, but I am OJ, so I'm drinking tea. Cheers. Hacking without tea is very uncivilized. So make sure you have your beverage of choice. Your complimentary tea, TJ. I need to get my emotes happening, don't I? I still only have the ones, which is a little bit weak. So for those who may have not yet caught up on the last stream, we successfully wired in the first of the plugins, so standard API is now happening. And we actually started implementing some, and by some I mean like one maybe, of the actual request response that go across the wire. So that's pretty damn good, if you ask me. I was pretty happy with the progress that we made. And so today what I'd like to do, like the goal of today's stream, is to get to a point where like the Metasploit side thinks that we have a fully valid session. So, and by that it means like when you look at the session in the console, it's got all the information there, and the first set of things that go on behind the scene we basically fully implement, except for the TLV encryption. Can you pause the screen please? Windows is just doing an update. Yep, we'll wait for you. Not. So are there any questions from the previous streams? Then please fire them up now. At least it's not Java. Amen to that. Okay, well, I will assume that if you have questions, you're going to ask me. So I will move on and put my face up in the corner and go back to our development environment. Now, given how big things are going to get, what I think I'm going to do is start refactoring some of the standard API functionality to begin with, so that it's in sort of separate components. Now you'll notice that there's this message here is prefixed with standard API, and then you've got sys, config, get UID. There's a bunch of other ones as well. Like if we have a look at, where's the source? Here we go. So that's standard API.h. You can see we've got, need to go to the C file, which is in here somewhere, standard API.c. So you see we've got Railgun, we've got FS, we've got sys, we've got sys process, and under that you've got process image, process memory, process thread, registry, and config. So what we have implemented, I think, was this first one, get UID. So each one of these is kind of going to be broken up into its own chunk. And so I think it's worth us making sure that we sort of structure the code so all of these things are separate. Good evening, Men's. Good evening, Joshua. Welcome to the stream. It's lovely to have you both. How many we got? There's only 10 of you apparently, but that's fine because it is Thursday night. Thursday nights are party nights or something for the young people. Righto, so as you can see, there's lots in here. So what I want to do is maybe break this up into, hey, sysop's here as well. Is break this up into separate sort of more logical components. So let's go with this. Let's create a new folder and I'm going to call this sys. And then I'm going to add a new folder called. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to stop at sys. And I'm going to add a new class called config. So we can see you've got met standard API sys config. Alright, I'll probably make this an internal class at some point, but for now I'm just going to leave it as is. Right? Now, what I want to do is move this sysconfig get UID into here, but I'm going to get rid of sysconfig because we're kind of there, and we're just going to have get UID. Add some usings so all of the things become available. And there we go. Clear out the ones that we don't need for now. Simple as that, hey? What we need to do is register ourselves, okay? So what we're going to do for each one of these classes that we have, we'll have a public void register function. I'm still going to pass in the extension name here. And what do we got? That's pretty much all. We need the plugin manager. Okay, and then what each individual component can do here is take this. There you go. So we can go, oops, ext name, and this will be dtg get UID, and then inside here, as part of our constructor, we're going to have a this dot sysconfig equals new sys.config, right? And then when we register, so let's just create a member for that. And when we register, what we're going to do is go this.sysconfig.register and give it this.name and the manager that we're registering with, right? What's going on? Someone's done something. Mongo's back. Bitquark's back. Arroway is back. Oh, you're all coming in. Lovely to see you. And Mongo, thank you very much for the sub, my friend. Always a pleasure. Very kind of you, sir. So, yes, as you can see, it really is that simple. So we're just going to start sort of moving our code into areas that aren't going to end up in a huge sort of mess. All right, I'm going to leave this core channel open one here, but that is probably, we're going to delay that until down the track. In fact, what I might do is completely comment it out, because I don't even want to pretend that we can do it at the moment. All right, let's build that. Now what I am going to do as part of this is I'm just going to put something in the metserve server. So for every single method that comes in, I just want to log it to the debug output, right? So when we get a request, let's go if debug. I'm wrapping everything in if debugs, even though the call to system.diagnostics.debug.write line, even though this doesn't do anything when we do release builds, the strings that appear in here do, right? So They do actually appear in the binary, so I really don't want that to happen. So I'm just going to wrap them all in if-def debug, because that will at least prevent the strings from being compiled in. So right line. So when I say request came in for, actually no, we don't even need to be that verbose. Let's just do this. So what do we got? We got request dot method, and that should give us the enumeration that, the string that represents the packet that came in. So if we're running this, oh, we've got another follow. Just player, thank you for the follow. Muchas gracias, much appreciated. Now what's going on? What have we done? What have I broken since the last time? Let's go. I need to view the output window. Here we go. Request standard API config sysinfo. So we've got standard API conf get UID, and we've got call loadlib. So these are all good, but clearly we've got standard API sys config sysinfo, and that didn't do very well. Your shirt is sparkling on camera view. I think it's clashing with your green screen. Shall I remove it? It is kind of sparkly. I'm going to leave it. I think that makes me look a bit glittery. I don't mind a bit of a glittery vibe. Stop staring at me and look at the code instead. But yeah, I can't like it. It's cool. Yeah, I think the black for some reason does play silly buggers. What happens if I do this? Is that better? I'm a little bit sort of as a result, but maybe if I rotate that away slightly. Is that better? Less sparkly. I'll leave it like that for now and we'll see what happens. It is a little bit bright, but you know, I need to figure out the lighting. In fact, I need to get some better backlighting in here. But it is what it is. Fabulous. I feel fabulous. Okay, so you're a fan of the sparkles? Sparkles it is. You're welcome. I love you guys. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think I did see it during the time that I spun it up, but that's what it is. All right, so as we can see, when we run this, we get this get UID, which we know we've implemented. We get all of these other bits and pieces, which we've implemented, even though this machine ID is a little bit cheeky. Standard API sysconfig sysinfo is the next thing that we need to implement. So let's just see what we actually need to do in order to make that work. Remote sysconfig sysinfo. Let's have a gander. I'm getting the feeling that this is going to be quite extensive. Where is it? That's config.h, config.c. Ooh. Righto, so let's have a look at the things that we're sending back. First of all, we're adding the computer name. That's pretty easy. Add Windows OS version. That might be a little bit trickier. And what are we doing here? We're dynamically getting is WoW64 and NT. Okay, we don't need to worry about NT in 2000. So what we're doing here is we're getting process architecture x64, x86, or IA64, and defaulting to x86 if we don't figure that out. And then what else are we adding? Oh, we're getting the language. Yes, I see. And then what are we doing? Okay, right. So country and language. And we do the ENAU or ENUS or CNCN or something along those lines, right? Yeah, we've got a fair few tabs in here since the last time. I should probably close a few off. Now, what do we got here? We've got network get STA get info. Aha, so that gets the domain name and it gets the number of logged on users. So as we can see, there's quite a bit going on this one. It doesn't look like we're reading anything out of the request packet at all, so we don't need to worry about that. It's just, we just need to parse that and handle that TLB case. All right, so let's go back to config. And we're going to need to register a stdapi sysconfig sysinfo. Okay. Create method config sysinfo, and let's just do this for now. Okay. Now, oops, it's not arg1 and arg2, is it? It's a request and a response. Where do VulnHub people hang out now, or is it all dead? Good question. I haven't been on IRC for yonks, so it's very hard for me to say. Right. Okay, so step 1, get computer name. This should be fairly easy, right? So we should be able to go environment dot. Pretty sure that machine name, there you go, machine name is in the environment. So we should be able to go response.add TLV type. We might have to add the TLV type here because we've only got standard API username. So let's make sure that we've got all of these TLVs in place. We need to go back to, actually let me just quickly swap these around. Go back there, and then we can go back to standard API.h over here, which should have all of these in it. And then, oops. What was our computer name? Type computer name. Sysconfig TLV type computer name is a string of 10,000 of 1040. Looks like implementing stdapi is a lot of work. Yeah. Yep, that's fair to say. It is going to be a lot of work. So let's go here. Standard API computer name. And that was, I think, 1040, wasn't it? Sysconfig computer name was the first one. We may as well put these ones in as well. OS name, because that's going to come back as part of, we'll call it operating system name, just to make sure that it's very clear. Architecture. Standard API architecture. So the question here is like, do we return x86 or do we return CLR? Have a think about that, people. Should we be returning whether we're a 32-bit processor and a 64-bit processor? Because that's effectively what the architecture should be, right? Or maybe not. No, that's probably right. All right, lang system is 44. It was string 44, right? Yep. SID is a string 45. SID 45. And then we've got domain, which is 46. And then we've got logged on user count. Logged on user count. And that was 47, but this was a uint. Okay, all right, so that should give us the basics, which means when we go back over here, we should be able to go computer name. Oops, take that, shove it in there, and we have the machine name. Boom, it's easy as that, right? I agree, Wolf, it would be nice, but it is what it is. That's unfortunate, isn't it? All right, so we've got the computer name. Let's see what Windows OS version does. Okay, so ntdll get proc address for RTL get version. So there's got to be a much nicer way of getting the operating system version. So that relies on RTL get version. Let's see. What I'm going to do is close some of these off, because there'll be a lot of tabs in here that we don't need anymore. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. .NET, get Windows version. Detect Windows version in .NET. Let's have a look. Environment.os version property. Let's see what we got here. So OS version has, oh, look at this. The information you need in distinguishing the most Windows OS major releases, but not all, consists of 3 components which map to the following Windows versions. Well, would you look at that? That actually makes it pretty easy, right? Let's see, is this actually doing the same thing? Whoops. So let's see what this does. It is actually doing a bunch of checks in here and spitting out similar things. So let's have a look. It's quite verbose. And this is something that has to be updated all the time. You'll notice actually, I don't think we've got Windows. Oh, we do have 2016. We don't have 2019. So this will have to be updated at some point. Pardon me. And you'll see OS name is shoved in the OS name value. See Windows build whatever. It's blindly bright when you switch from VS to Chrome. Yes, I agree. Sorry about that. There's not much I can do. So what we should do to begin with then is look at the major version. So according to, let's have a private string get OS version string. All right, so we're going to implement basically the same thing in here. All right. Copy the C code and then fixed it up a bit. Yeah, it probably is. I am going to take all of this and I'm going to go if not here and if paste it in there like so. Now, so what we need is environment.os version. Let's take V so I don't have to type it out 1,000 times. So we have v.platform service pack version and version string. Gets the concatenated string representation of the platform identifier version service pack that we currently install the operating system. Okay, well let's have a quick look at this, because this, after we build it, should get called so long as we we're gonna have to go response.add standard API operating system name, and here we're gonna go get OS version string. So let's build that and just see what values we've got in there in that object in particular. So OS version, platform version, and there you go, Microsoft Windows NT 6. So that's not really in line with what we want. It would have been nice if it did, but it does not. So that's a bit of a bummer. Okay, so if we go and switch on v dot version dot major. Okay. We can now here, because we're adding, what are we adding? We're adding all of the bits and pieces into this string at the end. What we should start with is a string that's just a blanket bucket. So let's go case, where was our documentation? Sorry about the change, Dean, in the eyes. Let's take this out as well. That's okay. Oh, if your executable assembly manifest doesn't explicitly state that your exe assembly is compatible with blah, that will return Windows 8, which is 6.2 and 6.3 and 10. That's pretty interesting. We should probably cater for this case. Okay, so yeah, we just need to do what we were doing in the C code, so that's fine. Shove this in here as well. Okay. Case 4. We're going to say name equals Windows. Oh no, we need to do a sub query, don't we? If the major version is 3, that's Windows NT. Now, we're not going to run on Windows NT, so we're not even going to bother putting that in there. But if it's 4, and the minor version is 0, righto, so let's go. If it's 4, switch v.version.minor. Is it minor or? Yeah. So if we have 0 as the minor version, then name equals Windows 95. So I should follow convention here and go var name equals default string. There we go. Not very exciting, this bit, is it? Case 0, and then we've got case minor version of 10. That's gone up. That's quite a boost. Windows 98, which probably is. I mean, we're putting Windows 95 in here. I should probably put case 3 in as well for Windows NT for the sake of being consistent. So name equals Windows NT. Is that what we put in here? 3.51. In the remote possibility that it's actually used, which it isn't. Okay, case 10, and what was the other one? 90. We should validate these things, hey? So that's Windows ME, and that covers all but 1. We also need to check the platform ID, don't we? So if it's 4 and the platform ID is Win32 Windows, maybe I should get rid of these nested cases because they're going to get very messy very quickly, aren't they? Hey. So if we go if v.version.major equals 3, right? Then we get this. Okay. Else if v.version.major equals 4. Alright. We're going to do a subquery here, but we just need to go if v.version. What is it? Platform equals platform ID.win32 Windows. That's when we need to do these things. Right, so if v.version.minor equals 0, then we get Windows 95. Else if it's 10, we get 98, and otherwise it should be 90, right, in order to get this particular line of code working. And that's ME. We've got another thing happening. Peleus has subscribed for 2 months with Pitch Prime. Thanks, dude. Welcome, Peleus. Good to see you again, buddy. Hope all is well with you, man. We need to catch up for a chat soon. Okay, so otherwise, the assumption, I mean, we can make a bunch of assumptions, but I would rather not. We should just be very explicit. So if it's been 32 NT, then according to our table, It is Windows NT 4.0, which again, we should not see here at all. We've got another, oh jeez, an anonymous gifter. Whoa, gee, I wonder who that is. I wonder who that is. Anonymous gifter? I reckon that's Barney. Barney, are you gifting subs again? That dude has got more money than sense. It's not you. Legit wasn't me. Really? Somebody out there is gifting subs. Who is it? I'd like to know who it is. Barney, prove it. Prove that it wasn't you. Yeah, there's like gifting 10 tier 1 subs. So whoever you are, I'm kind of thinking that it's Barney. It's the kind of thing Barney would do. But whoever you are, thank you very much. That's very kind. Welcome to all the new tier 1 subs. Righto, so if we have a look at these, I mean, the only ones we really care about from here on in, you know, the older versions. Honestly, not you, hey? Gift sub from an anonymous person. I wonder if I can get stats behind the scenes of who's done it. I'm guessing not, given that it's got anonymous. Recent events, live actions. I'm trying to see behind the scenes, like nothing's appearing in my dashboard saying who it is, so it did happen right after Peleus arrived. Peleus, are you doing this nonsense? Is it you? Huh? Someone chat, Wolf cheered. Your cheer got lost in the noise there, my friend. Righto, okay. I'm just going to move on until someone admits to it. Okay, so we're up to platform ID 5, sorry, major version 5. And they're all platform ID Win 32 NT, so we don't need to worry about that. Let's just go into minor version. Version.minor equals 0. Then we have the name of Windows. Chances of .NET 2 or .NET 3.5 existing on Windows 2000 is pretty slim. Minor version 1, we end up with Windows XP. So this is actually getting into a land of possibility with Windows XP. So Windows XP, Windows 2003, and that's the last of our platforms for version 5. Version 6, we have, pardon me, 0. Oh, look at this. We've got Vista in 2008 that come out with the same number. Gone Boss, thank you very much. Second month in a row. Thank you for the sub, my friend. Very kind of you. Welcome. And Grud Sonic. I don't know how to say your name. I'm really sorry. We're going to have to come back to this issue with Windows 2008 and Vista sort of overlapping, right? But what we can do for now is at least do the other ones. So platform ID. Oh, look at that. Windows 7. Oh, we need to know whether it's a server OS or not, don't we? All right. So if that's 0 and this is a desktop version, then that's going to be Windows Vista. So we'll assume for now this is all the desktop stuff. This is Windows 7. Excuse me. Windows 8 is the next one. And for 3, we've got Windows 8.1. Okay. Now we need to check, because all the platform IDs are the same, right? So what does the C code do? Let's have a look. Windows 2000 XP, and it goes Windows .NET Server for 2. Maybe we should be consistent. Windows .NET Server. Yeah. ME is in capitals, so again we should remain consistent. NT4. Okay, so we can get rid of these now. Let's have a look. Ah, this is interesting. So product type. There must be a product type that we need to look at. Okay, that makes things easier, doesn't it? So, if it's a workstation, it's Vista, otherwise it's 2008. Okay, so let's have a quick look at V dot. It's not platform. What's version? It's a product type. Okay, so I'm not going to find it in here, are we? We've got build, major, minor revision. V dot. So that's where are we going to get? Where are we going to get this from? We've got to get this from somewhere. There's even a service pack thing hanging off this. So we need to figure out how we're going to get this product type out. Let's ask the Googles. Let's take a copy of that. .NET get version. Ah, it looks like that one that we opened before has it in it. Let's see what it's. Ah, it's going native. That's why. You can use this helper class. Get version info. I'm guessing there's p invoking. Yep, there you go. It's p invoking. Okay. Just want to see if there is a way of getting that exact value out using just .NET, because I'm not really keen to p invoke unnecessarily. Everyone's p invoke. Why are you p invoking? We don't need to p invoke. New major minor Windows 2000 smash. So what are you talking about, mate? What do you think about creating a list of valid versions? I think I would prefer that once we've actually got them mapped out. The thing is, I mean, I guess we don't need to worry too much about performance. I kind of like the idea of weaving through and figuring out what the OS version is rather than having a set of data that we then have to query each and individual one until we find the one that we want. But for now, let's just go with the nested ifs. Why don't you just search replace the variable names in the C version but keep its structure? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Right now, my focus is trying to figure out how we can get this workstation value, whether or not something is a workstation. Getting the core runtime using. There you go. We're back at the same thing. Is Windows Server. So OS version info. So I don't think this is the kind of thing that's necessarily going to result in some kind of AV or whatever picking up on the fact that we're doing something malicious, given that what we're actually doing is just looking at the OS version. But I still don't really want to have to p invoke for this. I was speaking to OJ Junior 1 and 2 and they want to come snowboarding next week. You were you? I would love to do that. Let's talk about that offline, dude. See, all of these are just going native, which I don't really want to do it. I wonder if there is a way of like determining that from the string. Do you know what I mean? I wonder if we can pull that out of the string itself. Let's just do this for a minute. I'm gonna build this. So we know that it's going to be major version. I'm on Windows 10, right? So it's going to bomb all the way down to, oh no. I'm on Windows 10. And according to this, major version should be 10. Okay, so that's not great. So look at this, Microsoft Windows NT 6.2. Not exactly the most helpful, is it? Given that this isn't particularly thorough, I am actually tempted to p-invoke this. But what I'm going to do to begin with is p-invoke it in the standard way. Reg lookup isn't exactly p-invoke. No, I know, but so if you're referring to where is it? There was also listed in here, wasn't it? The registry option. Where are we? No, it wasn't here. There's only so far I want to go with this as well. It's pretty bad, hey. Windows 10 is supposed to be a major version of 10, and it just isn't coming out that way. It doesn't explicitly state that your exe assembly is compatible with Windows 8.1 and Windows 10. That will return 6.2 instead of 6.3. So we would need an assembly manifest that indicates that this is valid. Installation type, is that okay? Let's open this up. Did we get it? Computer, HQ local machine, current version, installation type, client. Well, there you go, Smash. That's probably the nicest way. Yeah, I don't want to use WMI. Let's just try and stick to the native. But thank you for the options. I think I prefer this one. So we will... Maybe I'll do this up front, right? Yeah. Stop. Pause break. Stop debugging. Cancel everything. So... is workstation. I'm going to call it as workstation. Equals. Now, I haven't done any registry access for quite a while. Let's do this here. Private bool is workstation. Registry. Microsoft Win32 registry dot. Local machine dot open. Righto, so we need... Who knows what the @ does? Smash not allowed to answer. Anyone? Anyone know what that is? This tune's good. Oops. Var key equals key dot get value, and it is called installation type, right? I have actually asked that question in here string. No need to escape special characters. Exactly. Deraven is back. Welcome. Thanks for joining in. He is correct. So if I remove this @ you'll see these all of a sudden become important. Unrecognized escape sequence. So rather than escaping all of those, if we put an @ at the start, it ignores the escape sequence. Okay, so get value. String name. Oops. What are the options? Default value, registry value options. So return value dot to string it dot, let's go dot to lower equals client. Okay, and then we can go var is workstation equals is workstation, and then down here we should be able to each one of these is workstation. Yes, it's Vista. No, it's Windows 2008. Let's go back to our browser. Thanks for that, Smash. That was helpful. Oh, we don't need the browser. We've got it all here. So let's get rid of all of these. Okay, Windows 2008 and then 2008 R2. I'm just going to copy and paste because I'm lazy. 7 R2. Windows 8 and 2012. And then we've got 8.1 and 2012. Oops. R2. And then if major version is 10. Okay, so this is where we're going to start getting unstuck, right? Because as we can see with our current code, it's not detecting. Okay, if it's a workstation, it's going to be Windows 10. Otherwise, it's going to be Windows 2016 server. Whew. Yeah, okay, sorry, yep, it's a lower invariant, thank you. Must make a habit of that. Actually, let's make sure we haven't done that anywhere else. Let's be consistent. Okay. So that should give us all the bits and pieces, but there's something about this manifest thing that we need to worry about. So hang on, let's go and have a look at some of the configuration for this. Settings. It might not even be in here. Generate serialization. What is this? Blah, blah, blah. Let's go back to our reference, which was here. For applications that have been manifested for 8.1 or 10 apps not manifested for 8.1, will return the OS 8 version. To manifest your applications, refer to targeting your application for Windows. Okay, so we've actually got to add this stuff in. Add the following to your sources. Jeez, what a mess. I'll come back to this, I think. But that's definitely something that we need to cater for. I'm going to put a to-do in here and move on. Make the assembly manifest indicate that this is Windows 8.1 compat. Okay, so once we've got that, we need to generate a string in the same way that we are doing it down here. We should probably default unknown up here, shouldn't we? Unknown OS. Okay. What is this CSD version? It's probably like a... Oh, it's a string. There must be some other string in here. So if v dot... Is it the service pack? Is that what CSD version is? Let's see. CSD version. I don't even know what that is. A null terminated string such as service pack 3 that indicates the latest service pack. Okay, so that's probably what that is. So we should be able to go if not string.is null or empty, v dot service pack, then actually we should do that at the end and we can just tag that on, right? Oh no, because of the way this is arranged. OS equals default string. So here we're going to go OS equals string.format. We're going to have whatever the value is that we got out of the previous, and then we're going to go build 1 and 2 DW build number. Let's have a look. So we're going to have name followed by v dot version dot build, and then v dot service pack. Otherwise, now I'm going to invert this rather than putting a not in place. I have it just so that it's default, and here we will remove. Oops. Get rid of that. Do you want me to boot up a 29 to get the details also? Could do that. Product name key may be useful as well. So I'm not seeing that registry key on server 2016. Yeah, okay. So I'm just checking to see if it's client, and that's what's going to be sitting there to make it a desktop machine. I don't have a 2019 VM, but what I think we're going to have to do is update all of the meterps so that they all support this new version. Right, so let's do the debug thing. If debug and if system dot debug. Actually, I should do this elsewhere, shouldn't I? Wherever we call this. No, I'll do it at the bottom. All right, system dot debug dot debugger dot debug dot right line string dot format OS string. Okay. Builds. Now it's going to come out wrong because of our app manifest, right? So according to this, it's Windows 8 build 9200. Now if we look at the about, about your PC, what does it say? Windows 10 Pro 18.03. So I would assume that all of those version numbers are different because of the application manifest. But I'll come back to that just for now. So if we add that and return it, let's see what MSF thinks. Ooh. We actually have some information here. If we look at it verbose, what do we got? It's definitely our session, isn't it? Fail train. There's a bunch of stuff in here that looks good. So I am a little bit confused though. Where is it getting this from? Maybe it's the peer socket. So that's getting it off. So, but if I go sysinfo, what is it going to do? Breakpoint. Okay. So we're getting at least 2 of the values out. But what we are expecting to see is clearly a lot more than that. So this is a good start, at least. Okay. So we'll leave it at that. I'm going to come back and make sure that we fill that out correctly. But let's do the other bits and pieces first. Come back over here. And where are we? Okay, so that's the OS version. Next, we're trying to determine if it's a WoW 64-bit process. Now this is actually pretty easy, right? There's this get native system info. Because what we can do is we can have a private string get system architecture. Okay, so the system architecture, we've got environment dot is, hang on a minute, I think this is it, environment dot, not in, maybe not in this version of .NET, do we not have it? I think in .NET 4 we do have it, which is interesting. Get system. I'm pretty sure that environment does have is WoW 64 process. Let's have a look. Environment.is WoW 64 process. Determines whether the specified process. Oh, this reminds me of Rocket League, this song. So, wow, this is native. That's not what I wanted. Environment. How to detect if it's 64-bit with .NET. So, inPoint.size won't return the correct value for running 32-bit framework 2 on 64. So, there's this is WoW 64. Again, we're p invoking, which I really don't want to do. So there we go. Look, .NET 4 has these things, but in .NET 2 we don't. So maybe with our .NET 2 CLR, full answer is taken from is 32-bit processor on 64-bit processor. Right, so there are p invokes going on here as well. More p invoking. Does win 32 methods. Okay. I wonder if we can actually abuse this by getting environment variables instead. What do you reckon? To complete the troll, import Meterpreter guest system command returns system version. Will a .NET app ever be running under WoW 64? That's a very good question, Mongo. One would argue not, hey? That wouldn't make any sense. What about registry keys? I'm sure there are some that have the architecture. Yeah, but remember when we're running 32-bit, when we run 32-bit, what does the processor architecture look like? Let's have a look. So if we go CMD, I know this is a 64-bit process. So if we have a look at the environment, we've got processor architecture AMD 64. Okay. But if we run C Windows sys wow 64 cmd.exe, processor architecture W6432. Okay, so we do have processor architecture of x86. So this will tell us the processor architecture, which is what we want to know. But it's not in the same spot in both of these cases. So for the processor architecture, maybe we need to look for this environment variable. And if it's there, we can return x64. Otherwise, look at processor architecture and go from there. What do you think? I think it's probably worth relying on the environment a little bit instead. What do you guys think? What do you think? I mean, we can always look at things like, you know, is there a program files x86? Is there a program W6432? Like, there's a lot of things in here that we can look at. It'd be nice if we could just sort of go to one central location. I mean, ideally, I don't want to know if it's a WoW64 process. That's not really what we're looking for. We actually just want the native architecture. So maybe we should just get the environment variable. What do you guys think? Any suggestions out there? Is processor architecture always there on earlier operating systems? Possible values of processor architecture. Well, look at that. Environment variables. When a 32-bit is created by 64-bit, or when 64 is created by 32, WoW 64 sets the environment variables. Processor architecture equals that, or that, or that for a 64-bit process. So this is just telling us the process though. No, this doesn't tell you the architecture of the processor, but only of the process with the environment variable. It turns x86 for 32-bit processors running on 64-bit Windows. I think we're going to rely on the environment, to be honest. It's querying. That's a good question. Is querying HKey local machine Microsoft, sorry, hardware. Hardware. Description, system, central processor 0. So platform ID. Where do we see the platform ID? Can you see platform? I can't see it here, mate. Platform specific field. Is this it here? Intel 64? I don't know. It feels potentially clunky. I wonder if the key is different on Windows 10. Yeah, maybe it is. I think what we might do is go get environment variables. What does this do? Retrieves all environment variable names and their values from the current process. Yeah, that's not what I want. We want to get what is it? Let's go with this method for now. Let's start with processor architecture with the extra bits on the end. Okay, so if we get that one, could run 32-bit or 64-bit hardware. Yep, absolutely. That's why we are. I guess the question is like, how do we determine if the OS is 64-bit? Right? That's what we're looking for. Maybe we can go .NET detect operating system architecture. How do you get the operating system architecture? Check this out. Interesting. I do think we should just stick to the environment for now. W6432. Okay, so if string.is null or empty arch, then we basically want to do the same thing, but this time get this. And then from here, we can go switch arch. So if it is AMD 64, we can return x64 is what we're expecting to see. The other one is IA64. Actually, from here we should go default return arch, because only when it's AMD 64 do we want to return x64, because the current implementation, you can see AMD 64 is x64, IA64 returns that, and x86. So if we look at the documentation that we just saw, where is it? Environment variables. Could also be ARM, but we currently don't support that. AMD. There you go. So that's basically what we want. And that'll return the bits and pieces that we're looking for. What about ARM? Yes. What about ARM? Okay, so standard API architecture. Get system architecture. We may refactor these into other areas of the code as well, because it's getting pretty big. You ever see any? No, I haven't seen any Itanium, to be perfectly honest. All right, let's see what this does. Back to here. Okay, so the architecture is correct. Meterpreter is definitely a CLR Meterpreter, so that's a win. We will fix this up. But slowly but surely we're getting there, right? Alrighty. I was thinking, how is it getting the domain? I'm guessing if you don't specify the domain, it falls back to the computer name here, which would make the most sense. But yeah, this is exciting. We're making good progress here. Right, so where do we get to? So we've got the architecture now. Now what we need to do is get the locale. .NET get system locale. This should be pretty easy, right? Thread. There you go. Exactly this. This is interesting. Information such as default culture and format patterns are cached the first time it's requested. That information can change during the life of the app domain. Yeah, I'm not worried about that. I have set the system locale to blah. Then I restart my computer around .NET 4 running this. So maybe we do need to do this first just to be sure. So let's do the same thing again. Private string get system locale. System.threading return thread.current thread. Oops, current thread.current culture.name. Do you ever see any of that? There's no extra comment in there, so we can skip that. Alright, let's see what... Oh, I need to call it, don't I? How about I call it? That'd be a good idea. No, not logged on user account. Lang system. That's what I wanted. Lang system. Let's see what this does. That didn't do what I was expecting. Ah, I didn't build it properly. en-au. Ah, here's a question. You guys remember off the top of your head? en-au. There's underscores, isn't there, in the other implementation? So let's quickly double check to make sure that we are being consistent. Yeah, underscores. So I'm gonna cheat here, and what I'll do instead is we'll do a dot replace. We'll replace a dash with an underscore. Sorry, a bit delayed. B-Man, somewhat catching up as I'm a bit late tonight. Could you use the CLR's processor architecture enum for architecture? So, are you talking about, like, I think processor architecture is something that comes with a later version of .NET. So let's have a look. System.reflection, let's have a look. Ooh, this looks good. But again, we need to make sure that we cover the edge case where you're running a 64-bit processor, but you're only running a 32-bit operating system. If that makes sense. So x86, a 32-bit Intel operator, either native or in the Windows on Windows environment. Yeah, see, we still want targeted by an executable. So not all the combinations of this. Oh, so it has been around for, sorry, there you go. It is a .NET 2, .NET 3, 3.5. So it has been there since day dot. But here's the question. If we use this, let's have a quick look. System.reflection. How do we get access to this? Execute kinds, image file machine. Post architecture is set. So this enumeration has these values in it, but where do we extract that? Because by the looks of it, maybe we grab it straight out of like the current assembly or something along those lines. Is that what you're talking about? Assembly, oop. System.reflection.assembly.get executing assembly. Is there something on here? Like, is this going to tell us? Image runtime version? No. Location, manifest, reflection only. Do you understand my question? Like, where do we get it from? Where do we get the actual value from? Entry point, evidence, full name, escaped code base. Get modules, types, host context. Looks like you might be able to use get native system info. Where do I dig that up? Is that in here? Dot get native system info. Ah, okay, so I'd need to p-invoke that. Bits per word on the platform targeted by, that sounds like it's referring to the assembly, not the OS. That's exactly what I was thinking too, Smash. I think we're going to stick with what we've got, to be honest, and we won't worry about hitting that enumeration. And we'll move on. So that's with the locale done. And then finally, the domain. Yeah, thanks, B-Man. It's a good question. That was a good question. Okay, so we need to get the domain. I get the feeling this is going to be one of those p-invoke only kind of scenarios as well. Function returns information about the configuration of a workstation, which is great because that's exactly what we want, but I want it without having to p-invoke it. Does anyone know how to use network management functions? Let's see what we got here. Oh, look at this horror. There you go, P invoking again. We don't want to P invoke. No more P invoking, please. Okay, get .NET get number of logged on users. Let's see if there's a nice way of doing it. Currently logged on. You see, there's a lot of ASP.NET, but we don't really want that. Get logged on users per computer domain. I don't think that's going to help us much, to be honest. Get user logon blah. What does this do? Is this a built-in function that we can abuse? Doubt it. So you know how PowerShell sits on top of .NET anyway, so what is this thing actually doing? Oh yeah, no, we're not doing this. It's using a bunch of WMI and ADSI and stuff behind the scenes, so we can't and won't do that. We may just have to p-invoke again. Ugh. Domain name should be in a registry key too. Plus, I mean, it tends to be in like something like a user domain if it's a thing, see? But the question is, like, user domain, if we run a system, does user domain actually get populated? Which I don't think it does. But then again, if we're running as NC authority system, yeah, we still want the domain to be specified, right? So maybe what we should do is, I should actually run this on a domain join machine, which is easier said than done right now. I think. System.directory, so active directory.domain, get current domain. Yeah, interesting. That means I'd have to add a reference to directory services because I don't think I'd have that by default. Assembly system.directory services. Get system domain name. So yeah, so we want excuse me. Sorry about that. Active directory.domain .get current domain. Domain. So do we want name or user domain? Gets the partition name. Get computer domain. Current domain is current process. Is it? I would say that. Really? Forest domain controllers. These all look pretty handy. Children. I bet you this comes back null because it's not domain joined. What am I doing? Come on. Build. And there we go. Not even calling it. Get system domain name. And we actually need to invoke it, don't we? So it doesn't ask for it out of the box. Current security context is not associated with an Active Directory domain or forest. Which isn't surprising. So what I would actually want to do is run this this piece of code in both contexts. But I think I don't have the means to run this on a domain join machine that can actually talk to this Metasploit instance at this point. So I might actually rewire some stuff and do that on next stream. But by default, like, we would want to return whatever the current machine name is by... So what we should probably do is make a helper function here as well. Get machine. So I call it system name, system machine name. So get system machine name. And then, so what we would want to do when we're getting the domain name is we want to try doing this stuff. And our default when we catch would be return get system machine name. So by default, if we're not in an Active Directory context, then we should be okay. Forest. I think I'm going to just return this for now. Oops. Like so. And we'll check this. To do run this on a domain joined machine, which I can do hopefully in the next stream. So Atari, thank you for the sub, my friend. It's very kind of you. Now, is that what the... This is an important question, actually. Is that what the current version does? So, if that works, we return the domain and the logged on user count. Otherwise, we return nothing. So maybe we should do this. Oops. We should use computer, not current. Okay, hang on a sec. String.is null or empty domain. Can't type. So we'll add it if it's specified. Pretty sure we use computer, not current. So get computer domain. And that returns a domain object which has a name. There we go. Where is the best for you to access? I've got a VM for 2019 lying around somewhere, mate. I just haven't got it spun up. I'll probably just add it to my lab. And what I'll do in future streams is I'll set it up so that my Metasploit VM has an IP address that can be reached by my lab, and then we'll be able to do all this stuff on domain join machines as well. So it's all good. Okay. I think that should give us sessions -1. All right, we're starting to fill it out at least a bit. This came back with the domain of failed train, which is not actually accurate, right? So get computer domain by the looks of it. Yeah, that's right. That's what yeah. Sorry, you're right. Return null. Not get system machine name. Thank you, @wolf. Let's try that again. Yeah, that's better. That makes more sense. Okay. What else do we have going on as part of the output window here? So, look at that. It's querying interfaces. And it's querying get routes. So, config I might actually call that get sysinfo. Call this get interfaces, at least then it's kind of implying that there's an action involved. Request. Response. Let's take both of these, drop them in here. See if we can just quickly bash out. So I know that we've kind of half-baked implementation of this, but I think to finalize the implementation of sysinfo, I need to put it on a couple of other machines that I don't currently have access to, which I'll prepare for our next development session. But in the shorter term, I need to pull out, might have to do a search for it at the top. What was it called? Interfaces. Is that what it was? I must have got it wrong. Get interfaces. Let's try that again. Why is that not happening? This is very strange. The standard API sysconfig get interfaces is clearly... Ah, okay, I'm wrong. It's standard API net. That's why. Okay. Code. This makes more sense, doesn't it? That's what we're looking for. This implementation here. Okay, so that's in config interface. Righto, maybe we're going to do a little bit more refactoring, just quickly. Net does belong, given put it in sys directory. Yeah, yep, I hear you. So let's do some other stuff. I'm going to call this just going to rename that. And so this is sysconfig machine. I'm going to have sysconfig. Actually, no, that's not what I want to do. We just want to add a net and class config. Okay. Let's take a copy of that, shove it in here, take this out, shove it in here. And get rid of that. Get rid of those two. Add the irrelevant bits and pieces to make it happy. Go back to the standard API plugin. And we're going to have netconfig. So sys.config. Create one of those. No, don't add a using. Don't want that. Because we'll get name clashes. Maybe what I should do is instead of including this as part of like namespacing, maybe I should just call it netconfig. Because this might in some ways cause problems for us. Let's just fix that up. The namespacing might be more pain than it's worth. Let's go back to here. Oops. And then we'll restructure a bit more as we go. Okay. And we need to do the same thing here with netconfig. Pretty exciting watching this, isn't it, hey? Woo. Alright, so this thing, this get interfaces. What are we doing in getting IP address table? So for each thing, what are we doing? We're trying to get the interface index, the IP address, net mask, and for each interface entry, we're getting a MAC address and an MTU and a description, and adding that as a group, which is interesting. Get IF entry. So I wonder if this is actually Win32 function get IP address table. Yep, it is indeed. Alternative. Here we go. So there's system.management.instrumentation. Yeah, that's just using WMI, which we don't really want. Looking for an alternative method because I'm having some problems using this function. Okay, so that's still using C. Not too fussed about the accuracy of that. Let's go .NET get interface list. This network interface is using IP command. No, that's not what I want. Ooh. What is this? This looks more like it, doesn't it? It's been around since .NET 2. System.net.network information.network interface. Get all network interfaces. That's what I'm talking about. For each var interface in system.net.network information.get public static, it's on network interface. Network interface. Interface dot. Yeah, where is it? Network interface dot get. Okay, so it is that. Network interface. get, there we go. So for var interface in get all network interfaces. I don't want for each. Oh, I can't. Let's do NIF for network interface. Maybe I'll just call it NI for network interface. Can't use the word interface because it's a keyword. NI description. This looks pretty interesting. So hopefully we'll be able to just replicate most of this as it currently stands. Get in, that's not what we're looking for. Here we go. So for each one of these, we need to create a packet group, so to speak. We want to add interface index, which we may not have, but let's see if it's got an IP address. Get IP properties, return object that describes configuration of this network interface. IP dot. This is interesting, isn't it? Win server address, DNS suffix, and any cast addresses, DHCP server address, gateway address. Is DNS enabled? Is dynamic DNS multicast, two-string, unicast? Let's just hit a breakpoint here for a minute and see what happens when this gets called. Gonna sign off shortly, folks. Let's have a look at, get rid of these, we'll go IP and NI. So the network interface, Ethernet 0, operational status up, that looks pretty interesting. And the IP, local domain, there's got to be something in here that's going to give me the actual IP address of the interface in question. Count 0, count 1. There it is. DHCP server addresses. So what if it's static? IP address collection, IP address, DNS addresses. Results u.2. Yeah, I think so, because I'm pretty sure that like there's probably a get. Hang on. So there's get IPv4, get IP properties. So if we had IP dot, I think there's a get IPv4 properties. var v4, and let's see what this does. Memory WMI makes you use the network adapter config to get the IP. Let's have a look at what this says. V4 interface properties. So that gives us, there's the index. That's handy. And the MTU. And whether or not it's DHCP. And what does V6 tell us? It's got the MTU. Given that it's got no IP address, that's pretty good. Is automatic private addressing enabled? Is automatic private addressing active? So this will be able to at least tell us whether we should look for DHCP addresses or not. Probably needs to handle multiple IPs on the same interface, both V4 and V6. Exactly. Exactly that. So for each one of the groups, We can see here we're adding, for each one, we're only adding one IP. We should be able to add multiple. Interface index we can add now. Netmask will be in here somewhere under IP, I would assume. So we get a DHCP server address, and that has the address in it. There's the dot form of the address. I assume that from this we'd be able to just say dot to string to actually get the address out. There's got to be something in here that would give us where a non-public. It's got to be a netmask or something in here. Numbers, there you go, to string gives us the, what is that, 254. That's not the address of the target, but it looks like the broadcast or something. There's 10 multicast addresses, really? Oh, these look like IPv6. Phew, don't know what any of that stuff means. 2 unicast. IPv4 mask, that's nice. That's the kind of thing that I was hoping to see, but this is more IPv6 stuff. Aha! Here we go. System unicast IP address information. So these are the addresses that I'm looking for. Because if we look at, this is what I'm wanting, which is exactly what I'm seeing in these unicast addresses. There you go, that should answer the question. It's got the DHCP related stuff in it. So this is on IP.unicast addresses. Reach address in IP. This is for every single IP. So this I would assume is, I should be adding multiple of these. Doesn't really say anything specifically here about IPv6 though, does it? Hang on a second, what is this? This is get interfaces MIB. This is get interfaces. Aha, I see. That's a fallback. It's another fallback. Right, here we go. So this is, there you go, index, MAC address, description, MTU, and then for each address, here we go. Ah, look at this. Hang on a second. That's not what I meant. Prefix, IP, and then IP. There you go. This is more like it here, right? So ADDR dot can see that this is a long and tedious process, right? Filling out all of these TLV calls. So there's two. Let's just quickly look at this. So that's the IPv6 one, and this is the IPv4 one. Right, so for each one of those addresses inside, there is an addresses value, which is interesting. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop it here because I can sense that finishing this is not going to happen before the end of this stream. Yeah, address family, exactly that. I think the C# was created with NV to Java and programming language created with NV. Here we go. Here we go again. I look forward, Wormir, to the day that you come in and say something pleasant. We can sit here and bitch about C#, we can bitch about Meterpreter, we can bitch about all these things, but at the end of the day, we're trying to create something, you know? And the language is what it is, the tool set is what it is, the environment is what it is. We've just got to work within those constraints. So, C# was not created in NV to Java. I can say that with absolute certainty after speaking to Anders Hjelsberg and Eric Meyer. The goals of creating C# had nothing to do with Java NV. It was more of a case of we can do a better job than what Java's done. And in my opinion, they've done a much better job with C# than Java. Yeah, sorry, Smash. I had a feeling you'd pick up on that. And it is a bit name droppy, but you know, it's a religious argument. You either like Java or you don't. You like C# or you don't. It doesn't really matter. In my opinion, C# is a better language than Java. Maybe it's because I prefer it. Maybe it's because the tooling around it's better. Maybe it's none of the above. Don't know. But yeah, let's not go there. Okay. So, you know, C# was created by people who are way smarter than all of us. And it was designed fairly well. And I think it's a lot of what Java should have done. JavaScript is my favorite language, Barney, exactly. All right, so look, I'm going to put this on ice because this is a little bit more of a rabbit hole than I was expecting, given that we've only got 10 minutes left of the stream. So I'm going to finish it up there. We did get some features implemented, like the bits and pieces that we wired in, for the most part, are there. There's obviously a couple of edge cases that we're going to dive into. I was trying to sort of go a little more broad rather than deep with this stream, but it looks like I chose the wrong thing to do that on. So, you know, maybe over the next couple of streams we'll have to go deep and we'll figure out the manifest related issue to do with the Windows version. We will figure out the issue with getting these interfaces listed. And there's also another to do, isn't there? Oh, we'll do some testing around domain related stuff. And we'll test them probably on a couple of different systems to make sure that we're getting our x64 versus x86 stuff out correctly. So thanks a lot, all. Thank you to everyone who came along and threw in their opinions and questions and comments and all that sort of stuff. And thanks again to the anonymous gifter who threw subs at everybody. I'd love to know who that was. That was very, very kind. 10 minutes of Rocket League. It's back to work for me, I'm afraid. But thanks again. I really appreciate everyone coming along and watching me drone on and offering insights and reminders and all that sort of stuff. It was good to have you. So, as always, be good to each other. Don't be nasty. Don't be a jerk. Feel free to bitch about JavaScript though, because that's absolutely fine. I have no problems with that. But yeah, I'll sign off. The next stream will be on Monday. I would say I'm back to 2 streams a week, and I've got some other content coming up soon. Something pretty exciting that I'm going to mention on probably this time next week. So next week on Monday we'll do some more of this, and then on Thursday we're going to do something different. I have a little bit of an announcement to make on there as well. So thanks for coming. Until then, peace.